Stuff, and I didn't want to break into his thing, but I thought it was interesting in our study, he quoted our study, that open space was the second highest thing, just barely next to Main Street. But coincidentally, desire for parks was one of our lowest answers. And to me, that's a terrible disconnect with what's being said in our study, because I don't know what other open space we'll ever have in Heber except parks. So, you know, I don't know what the concept when they answered that question. Maybe they were thinking Northfields. I don't want to. We can't read as much into that as might be implied from the one answer, because the other answer contradicts it.
I think you connect open space to rural character, and I think it's probably where they want to go.
No, I think so, but we don't know what they were thinking, and I hope we get more parks in Heber. We're working on that, but that's our open space, if we have any here.
I think part of that survey, though, when people were answering, it's not just, we want you to start preserving things moving forward. So like if Heber City were to annex the North Village, we have a lot of open space there. So maybe an agreement with the county would be good to preserve that open space moving forward. It's been a bit opportunistic, but
a big long meeting. Just keep that meeting going.
I see an interesting dilemma here. The $450 over the 15 years or whatever. I mean, that's a bit. It's close to 10% of people's taxes. But the people that already have purchased, maintained open space will be the greater contributors to the bonds because they have the highest values.
And most of those are greenbelt.
True, but still the overall values, I mean, our overall values in the county come from the outlying areas that are more open. They're the highest values of the county, for whatever reason. The Wolf Creek Ranch or whatever. And so those people that have put their money into open space, they're the ones that pay the most for somebody else to go get open space. And I understand the dilemma. I don't know how else you do that, but that seems to somewhat penalize those that have done this on their own for the benefit of everybody.
They're
I think that's
like
true,
the
but
recipients of the money, though, if they want to participate.
Maybe, I don't know.
I do think think that's partially true. I think the people that have done it before, a lot of them are motivated purely on in goodwill, wanting to see view sheds preserved, wanting to see somewhere for wildlife. I mean, Snake Creek I think is a great example of that. But there are those two. One of the reasons that.
But none of us did it to raise our taxes.
But some of the people in Wolf Creek Ranches did it to reduce their taxes. That's my point. Some of the people that have done it thus far have done it as a tax saving measure. It's not just out of pure goodness. They do it because it can reduce their tax burden by stripping off development rights. I mean, some of the.
I don't know a farmer in Wasatch County that makes money off their farm enough to pay for what it costs them to maintain that open space.
No doubt, which is why something like this needs to happen.
Farmers are on greenbelt, and we're going off taxable value, so they're paying.
I understand that.
They're paying a very small percentage of the high tax.
Mm-hmm.
But it's off of those properties that are in those areas that make up the highest tax-paying entities in the county.
But not the farmers. The farmers aren't paying.
Could I suggest too, though, that so many of those secondary homes and wonderful developments that have come here because of our rural quality and our view sheds and our air quality and our, the heritage that we have in this valley. And if we don't preserve it, will we get more? That's what I'm wondering.
No, I'm not against preserving it. What I'm saying is there's an inequity because those that want the open space the most are going to pay the least for the open space.
Think about that.
The urban homeowners.
Yeah.
you're saying a majority of those who want it.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Those are going to be voting.
I'm hearing that the Heber City study is what is one study. I'm not against open space. I'm very much for it. I've spent all of my life trying to do something with my open space, but not develop it. but it just seems a little bit inequitable from a tax basis that that's how it works out. But it is what it is, and I totally understand
And
that.
I guess that dilemma is what we ask the voters to decide on if they want to do it or not.
Right.
So, question for you, that big landowner that you say benefits from putting it in this easement, since you're working with this, is that benefit any better than green belting it? And can they do both?
It can be. They're two different tools, right? They're two very different tools. And so, and there's actually more than two tools.
I mean,
There's a lot.
obviously, if they do the easement, then we can't tax them a $1 million homeowner value land, right?
Right.
So it comes down for that reason. And I'm just wondering if some of them may not qualify for Greenbelt because you do have to produce agriculture.
Right.
But in terms of what the public's paying then, we're getting less property tax in addition to our up to $450 per business, let's say. You also get less property tax because, as you said, all those go down in value. So when we take taxpayer produced fund and buy lands, we also take down the taxes we get. Just think about it. So the second,
Yeah, but it's a net loss.
so the
You're buying
second,
development rights, which
Yeah.
takes down the tax.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what
No,
you're
it
saying.
doesn't take down existing use of land, so it's not going to decrease taxes at all.
on those lands that, well, he just said it.
Well, they're probably already in Greenbelt.
They're probably
That's what I'm
already-
saying.
That's
They're
why
already
I'm trying to
on the
distinguish
level.
between the two. So let me ask him a second question, then we move on, I guess. So when you do the election, Steve talked about it would be allocated back to a city or whatever based on value, and I know we heard the discussion last night of where all the value is. So are we gonna vote based on value and let those high inputters get more votes, or are we gonna vote by people?
We're going to vote
No,
for
we-
people.
We
Just
never
a-
use property
just an
taxes based
insight.
on that.
You vote by people, you tax by value.
Right, and allocate by value,
The way you do everything
or
else.
by
That's the
people.
way everything else is done.
I got it.
Hey, Steve, so if a property owner participates, do they lose their ability to have Greenbelt status?
No.
Well, that was, you asked, could they have
Well,
what?
well, the only thing,
That's what it is.
the only thing they're giving up for a dollar amount is the development rights. They still own the property, they still have the right to farm it, ranch it, whatever. They still have to pay Greenbelt taxes. Then they can sell that property to someone else. But that restriction goes with it, and no development goes with it.
And in a lot of these cases, that's the only way these families can keep this land within the family. Otherwise, the estate taxes are so much, and that's really when we're talking about the taxes being taken off the property, that's where the landowner really sees the benefit, is when they're trying to deed it to their kids. Because that's where generally those farmers have to sell their property because they cannot afford, the kids can't afford the estate taxes. So in a lot of cases, this is the only way these families can hang on to this land that they want to keep.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Good presentation, good information. We'll look to more discussion in a couple of weeks.
And it's all voluntary, nobody's forced at any point.
Right.
No, it's,
They're forced to pay the taxes.
Mike, if you're here for item number 6, that has been